D&D is a tabletop game where you use your imagination to get you places. Granted, some of those places might get you killed, but I digress. You can do a bunch of things in D&D, like explore caves, solve puzzles, roll dice, level up your character, and of course, which I think is the most important part of D&D, laugh at your friends for doing the stupidest things. Now, it is all told by the Dungeon Master, who is basically the god of this realm. They're the ones that basically tell the stories, summon the monsters, and create the puzzles. Now, the monsters can vary from a tiny little goblin to mermaids. No, not the Disney kind. More like the cabin in the woods kind. The puzzles work the same way. It could be from a whole labyrinth to literally just opening a door. Now, as much as the Dungeon Master influences the story, they have nothing on the dice. These help influence the story even further. Now, the D4 is the triangle piece that doesn't really do anything except help stub your toe. The D6 is the basic die right here. The D8 is the one right beside it, and these are basic weapon dice. The D12 is also a weapon dice for other weapons that are not as basic. So here's where things get difficult. The two 10-sided die here, if you put those two together, you get the percentile dice. They could range from 100 to 1. They're basically used for trinkets and stuff. Now, the main one you're going to be using in D&D is the D20. The D20 is basically the influencing dice that you roll to see how well you do at a certain task. I'll explain more in detail in the next slide. Modifiers. These are basically add-ons to your rolls to make it better or worse, depending on the modifier. Now, it doesn't work for everything, and this is going back on the last slide with the 20. Now, if you get a natural 1, it's basically the worst thing you can get, and you critical fail at it. But a natural 20, now that is the big deal. That means you not only do what you wanted to, but you do it in the best way possible. Now, there are multiple modifiers, but they can basically be well down into 6 categories. Your strength is your strength. Your dexterity is your agility. Your constitution is your endurance. Your intelligence is your book smarts. Your wisdom is your street smarts. And your charisma is how hot you are. But enough about what's going on in D&D. Let's talk about the characters. Basically what you will be playing as. Now, there are NPCs and stuff, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, your race is what you are. Your class is who you are. Your background is what you do. Your weapons and skills are what you wield. Your languages are what you speak. And your alignments are how you act. It's all gonna be in either a piece of paper or a specific D&D sheet. Also, feel free to add in small characteristics like height, weight, and eye color. Now let's talk about the races. Now there are the classical races for fantasy games like D&D, like humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs. But then D&D has the more unique races. Like for instance, the Dragonborn. No, not the Skyrim Dragonborn. Because unlike the Skyrim Dragonborn, that's basically whatever you want that can shout. The D&D Dragonborn is a half-human, half-dragon hybrid that can spit fire, acid, or lightning depending on the color of its scales. The Tabaxi is a humanoid cat. The Genasi is a humanoid element. The Tiefling is a very tiny demon. And then there's the half-elf and half-orc, who are half what they say, and the other half is human. Yeah, you think that the succubi and the incubi are the horny races? Not in D&D, that goes to the humans. And now we go on to the classes. I'm going to be giving a very basic description. Now, I didn't include every class. There's one extra class called the Blood Hunter, but I don't know anything about this guy, so I don't really know how to define him per se, so I'm gonna leave him out. The Artificer is the intelligent inventor that can make bombs out of whatever. The Barbarian is the tough guy that can literally get too angry to die. The Bard is the happy-go-lucky guy with music in his heart, and also has magical powers for some strange reason. The Cleric is the support class she told you not to worry about. The Druid is if a vegan went too far. The Fighter is the basic white girl of D&D classes. The Monk is basically if you get a monk and a martial artist to combine. The Paladin is for if you want to be a cleric but don't want to use spells. I'll get to that later on in the video. The Ranger is the long-range class that nobody ever uses. The Rogue is the thief that delivers the sweet, sweet edge. The Sorcerer is the magic user that didn't work for their powers at all. The Warlock is the guy who has a deity that gave him the powers. And the Wizard is the spellcaster that took years and years to study the craft of magic, to wield in any— oops, he died. Now, the weapons and gear are very straightforward. The weapons are what you use in battle, like your bows, your axes, your swords, and even your fists. Yes, your fists can be used as weapons, though I wouldn't recommend it. And your gear is basically what you have on you, like your armor, clothes, money bags, and instruments if you're a bard. Now, as I mentioned before, there are certain classes that can use spells, such as the Cleric, Warlock, Wizard, Sorcerer, and for some reason, the Bard. Now, these can be long range or short range. They can be very destructive and very powerful. Now, for norm spells, they require slots. And each slot has to be the same number or lower as the level of spell you're using. For instance, you could use a level 3 spell in a level 1 slot, but you can't use a level 1 spell in a level 3 spot. Now, an example of these normal spells would be Fireball. It's basically self-explanatory. It's a giant fireball that the wizard can use. Now it's up to cantrips. And these are basically level 0 spells. They require no slots, and so they can be used as many times as you'd like. An example of a cantrip is one that the Warlock uses, Eldritch Blast, which is basically a dark lightning bolt of death. Now, I would like to end off this video with my own character that I've created at the last minute. This is Tane Burdock. Actually, it's an image I got from Google, but this is basically what he looks like. The only difference is that he has heterochromia. One eye is red and the other is black. Now, Tane is a dragonborn sorcerer who was cursed by a warlock when he was a baby because his father was a terrible wizard. Not terrible in the fact that he's bad at his powers, but just a terrible person. And so he, along with his siblings, that I mentioned that he was born as a quintuplet, and he, along with his siblings, were cursed with basically the traits that his father lacks. And because of that, he and his sibling were separated because, again, his father is a prick. In Tane's case, he can't lie. And not that he doesn't want to lie, it's that he physically cannot lie. He has to tell the truth no matter what. And his goal in life is to find his siblings and basically reunite with his family. And since he's a blue scale dragonborn, he can spit lightning. Okay, that's enough for this video. If this gets to 20 likes by the end of the year, I will continue on with this series. Yes, I know that in my last video I said 50 likes, but with how barely anybody saw that video, 50 likes is never gonna happen in this one. So I narrowed it down to 20. So either way, if you enjoyed this one, boom, slap the like button across the face. Catch you in the next one, guys. Laters. Now here's where things get different. Okay. You put them together, it's called the and your charisma and what your character stay the line, you idiot. People are going on in the D. Now, there are the classical races for fantasy games like D&D, like humans, elves, orcs. Orcs? Look out, it's an orc! Oh, God. Now, there are classical races for why can't I say this? I wrote this! And now, we could go on. The sorcerer. The sorcerer is the magical person who's. Now for normal slops. Okay. Big. This is Tane Burdock. Actually, it's a video I got. Not a video, this is an image. Get it together, man.